Fernanda. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon to just have a kind of informal chat conversation about your plays that you wrote for the Young Playwrights competition project. I'm Lee, as most of you know. I directed 3 of your plays, and this is Sean Pritchard, our Welsh-speaking director who directed one of them. I'll just hand over to you for a second, Sean.
Helo bawb, croeso. Diolch I chi am ddod yma I sgwrsio efo ni am eich dramau. Dych chi wedi ysgrifennu nath ennill cystadleuaeth dramadwyr ifanc Theatr Iolo yn llongyfarchiadau i chi gyd. A dwi'n edrych ymlaen I glywed beth sgynnoch chi ddeud amdan eich dramau a hefyd y profiad o'i recordio nhw. Beth ydych chi'n meddwl o hynny? Sean dwi'n nes I gyfarwyddo un o dramau a dwi'n meddwl nes I actio mewn 2 ohonyn nhw.
Diolch, Sean. So how this will work is I've got some questions to ask you all. We'll take it in turns. The questions are very similar to each of you, so I'll try and come up with interesting ways to ask the same question each time. But if we just begin with Faaris and just talking about your play, 2 Worlds, 1 Meal, could you tell us a little bit about your play and what inspired you to write it, please?
Well, I've been keeping up with the news in lockdown, and I've noticed that lots of the food prices have been going up in the UK, and especially poverty has been going up because people are being furloughed and they're losing their jobs. And it got me thinking, how could I get this story on paper? And then what really made me motivated to actually write it was when I read an article about how children are also really struggling in this time, and some of them don't have meals in the day and sometimes go hungry 2-3 nights at a time. And I thought, like, this is horrible and we shouldn't have that in our country. So I wanted to write it and hopefully get it into a play production. That's why I entered it here, and luckily that's what happened.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a really kind of powerful and moving play. Can you tell us what your experience was like working with professional actors and a director like me on the project? How did you find that?
I thought it was really humbling to work with all of you, and I want to thank you, Lee, just for making me feel so comfortable, because I was a bit shy at the beginning, but you asked for my opinion every single time we went to make a decision, and it was really nice. And the actors were all fantastic, and I was surprised by how realistic they made the performance, and they were really good. So I want to say thank you to all of them.
Oh, thank you, Faaris. Thank you. It's interesting you say about being shy. I mean, I find every time I come on Zoom, whatever the meeting is, I'm kind of weirdly terrified. So it's nice to know that everyone else feels a bit like that. Is there anything you particularly enjoyed most about the process? Was it the writing part or the creating or hearing it being recorded? I know you haven't heard the finished pieces yet, but what's the thing that you've most enjoyed about it?
It's just definitely got to be working with the actors and recording it, because just seeing it come together, just from writing it on the page and then just seeing it as a bunch of words to fully seeing a production take place, that was pretty cool. So I like that part the most.
Can I ask, was there anything that surprised you about the actors' bits? Are there any bits that, and it might not be the case, but that sounded different to how you thought they might sound, or was there anything?
I think the only thing that sounded different was just, again, how realistic they made it sound, just from just talking to them 1 minute and then it takes them 5 seconds to get into character, and suddenly they're a new person, a new character, and I found that was really interesting, because I can't do that, neither can my sister, but it was really cool to work with them.
Cool, thank you. And has this project inspired you to write more? What kind of things do you hope to write about in the future?
It's definitely inspired me to write more. It's given me a lot more confidence as well to keep writing, because got to the final, that obviously gives you more confidence, and I want to keep writing scripts with strong stories, and but always want to have a positive, strong message behind it as well, because I think those represent whoever you're representing the best. Yeah.
And do you think that when you continue to write and look at plays, do you think you'll often be thinking about, I guess, I sort of want to say political things really, but I guess I mean sort of social improvement and, being conscious of trying to make the world a better place, if that's not too simple a way to say it.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be my motivation behind anything I write. And obviously, as I hopefully develop, it'll be weaved in better instead of really raw. But I always want to have a social message behind it, because it's a great way of getting your message across in a nice art form. So I like to try and improve the world step by step.
That's brilliant. Thank you. So I'm just going to move over to Esme now. Hello, Esme. So your play, The Wakey-Wake-Amatic. Can you tell us a bit about your play? Possibly one of the most exciting titles I've ever seen on a page. Can you tell us what inspired you to write it, please?
Well, a couple of years ago, when I was in year 4, we had to create our own sort of robots and write a story about them. And then my dad told me about the competition, and I thought that it would be kind of fun to rewrite it and try and make it into a play.
Cool. And can I ask, was there, because your character in it's called Esme, which has the same name as you. So are you, it's about someone who's often late for school and late for sort of rushing around a bit. Is that true of you a little bit? Is that okay for me to ask you? I can see your mum behind, smiling, looking up.
I'm not really late to school very often, but it is a rush in the morning and I often wake up late. Right,
and in your play, you kind of dream of a machine that will wake you up in a nice way. I wonder if that's something you would wish for as well.
Yeah, setting my alarm. When my alarm goes off in the morning, it's really annoying. And even if I've chosen a nice sound, eventually I just associate that sound with having to wake up early.
I really sympathise with that. So, what was the experience of working with professional actors and director like?
It was really fun and exciting, because I felt like a professional script writer, and you were always including me and treating me as if I was a part of the team, and it was really fun.
Cool. Yeah, well, I suppose we kind of approached all the things. I'm sure you did as well, Sean, that whenever I'm working with a writer, I mean, I suppose not everyone works like this, but I feel you're really lucky to have the writer in the room. You're really, really lucky to be able to ask them questions, especially if you don't always understand everything or get it in the right way. So that's good that that was a positive part of the process. So what was your favourite thing about working on the process?
Recording it, definitely. It was really interesting to hear my play and my characters coming to life.
Oh, because Sean, you were the Wakey-Wake-Amatic. So was there any were there any bits in it that sounded different to what you were expecting, or is that how you heard it?
That was pretty much how I heard it. It was spot on.
There you go, Sean. Cool. And has the project inspired you to write more in the future?
Yes, it was very fun, and I want to write more. It also this has also given me more confidence as well in my writing, because I wasn't expecting to be a winner. And then when I was, that was really surprising, and yeah, made me feel a lot more confident.
And do you know what sort of things you'd like to write about in the future? Do you have, are you someone who, do you have like ideas knocking about inside your head all the time? Or?
Well, I really like kind of a horror and murder mystery, and I would love to write more of that. Sci-fi and like robots and stuff isn't really normally my style, but I thought it might be fun to try something new.
The Wakey-Wake-Amatic was quite suspenseful. There's a little horror twist at the end. Not that I want to give the game away. I could definitely read that genre in it.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that in the future. Thank you, Esme. So I'm going to hand over to Sean and Rhiana now, as Rhiannon submitted a play in the Welsh language, and my Welsh isn't up to it yet, so Sean's going to kind of have that conversation. Sean beautifully directed Rhianna's play. Anyway, I'll be quiet now. Over to you, Sean.
I will. Just my computer's just telling me that I need to plug it in though, and I just need to.
Excellent.
I've already plugged it.
Technical.
There we are. Diolch yn fawr. Hi Rhiana, diolch am fod efo ni. Debyg iawn efo cwestiwn yma li wedi bod yn gorfod mewn ffordd am dy drama di Cer i Ffwrdd. Be am chdi i ddechrau jyst deithio ni chydig amdan y drama, a falle be nath dy ysbrydoli di sgwennu fo'n y lle cynta?
Felly mae'n comedi am, fel chi'n meddwl, am y dau cymeriad, am y un yn fel person, am y cymeriad arall yn fel ymenydd y person. O fi eisiau sgwennu achos fi eisiau fel personoli fel y proses o'n meddwl sy'n mynd ymlaen i wneud e'n fel mewn ffordd gall pobl sydd ddim yn profi pethau fel hynna deall.
Ie, mae'r dewis i roed cymeriad i'r meddyliau yna sgen ti yn dy ben pan sy'n neb arall o gwmpas yn syniad gwych, a dwi'n meddwl oedd o'n, fel sy'n deud, yn gomedi, mae'n hwyliog, ond mae hefyd yn onest iawn ar ran meddyliau yna sydd yn cripio ni mewn i dy ben di pan sy'n neb o gwmpas. Rhai negatif yn gret. A be am profiad o recordio efo actorion a cyfarwyddwr proffesiynol, sut o'ch ti'n teimlo am hynny, beth?
Nes i rili fwynhau, oedd e'n rili dda fel gweld popeth yn dod at ei gilydd. A oedd e'n braint i fel gweithio gyda pobl o fi'n ymygu cyn. Nes i rili fwynhau, oedd e'n rili dda i gweld fel y proses creadigol o sut be mae pawb yn neud yn dod at ei gilydd.
Ie, gret. A oedd yna rhywbeth nath dy daro di fel o ti ddim yn disgwyl, neu?
Sa'n siŵr, oedd e'n fel rili... Sa'n gwybod, achos fel yn amlwg computer fi'n sgwennu nes i ddim yn clywed yn pen fi. Felly oedd e jyst fel bach yn surreal yn clywed fel pobl arall yn dweud y pethau sydd fel arfer jyst fel yn pen fi.
Ond y ddifyr iawn, wrth gwrs, yn dy drama di, mond un actor sydd yn chwarae y person a'i menydd nhw. Felly mewn ffordd, mae o fel bod yn pen ti. Sydd yn rhywbeth. Be sydd ti'n dweud nes ti fwynhau mwyaf am y profiad yn ystod yr holl beth? Yr ysgrifennu yn lle cynta, yr ennill, neu y recordio, neu...
Nes i rili fwynhau'r holl broses, ond fi'n credu y recordio, achos oedd e jyst fel... yn gweld pobl yn dod at ei gilydd a yn clywed ar ôl fel jyst fi'n sgwennu a clywed mewn pen fi, oedd e'n rili dda.
Gret. Dwi wedi clywed demo heddiw, a mae'n swnio'n dda iawn, mae'n rhaid i ddweud. A be am y dyfodol i ti? Ydy o wedi gwneud i ti feddwl, dwi'n mynd i sgwennu mwy, dwi wedi mwynhau hynna?
Ie, sicr fi'n meddwl. A fel arbrofi gyda fel mathau gwahanol o ysgrifennu, achos cyn nes i wneud y cysylltiad, nes i ddim really meddwl am sgwennu fel dramau a stuff. Felly fi'n meddwl mae'n fel gweithio fi i edrych ar mathau gwahanol o sgwennu.
Ie, dwi'n siŵr. A be mae profiad o sgwennu rhywbeth ar gyfer glust, oedd hynny'n rhywbeth difyr? Gorfod meddwl sut da ni'n dweud y stori pan da ni jyst yn gwrando arno fo?
Ie, oedd e'n, achos o fi fel wedi trio hwnnw o'r blaen, oedd e'n, achos yn amlwg nes i sgwennu ar gyntaf ar gyfer fel llwyfan, a wedyn, achos oedd ni newid pryd o fi'n ail-drafftio fe, oedd e'n fel, o fi angen stop fy hun pob tro yn sgwennu rhywbeth a neu'n siŵr oedd e'n neud synwyr, achos o fi yn barod yn gwybod beth sy'n digwydd, ond felly o fi angen neud siŵr bydd pobl sy'n gwrando arno fe yn deall just o'r sain.
Ond ffordd difyr i ddysgu ffurf gwahanol. Ysgrifennu. Gret. A os na rhywbeth ti'n eisiau sgwennu amdano fo, dwi'n gwybod sy'n newid siarad am fatha ffurf gwahanol o falle, ond beth amdan themau neu?
Dwi'n rili licio fel crime dramas y pethau bach gormod falle. Ie, sy'n licio trio sgwennu rhywbeth o hwnna.
Cool. Hoffi. Gret. Wel, diolch yn fawr ti. Allan gyrchiadau eto. Diolch Lee. Mute.
Thank you, diolch. Lauren, Esme and Faaris, are any of you Welsh speakers?
I know, like.
I wonder whether Sean and Rhiana, would you mind just giving us a little précis of that conversation, just so...
Yeah, so we went through a similar set of questions as you've been asking, Lee. And I think Rhianna answered very clearly the kind of thing, the kind of play it is, which is a play about a person and their brain, and the kind of thoughts that can pop into your head when you're alone, often negative. In the play, it's dealt with in a fairly comedic way, with the brain being a kind of annoying parasite living inside the person's head. Would you agree, Rhiana?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I just asked you what your experience of working with a professional team was like. And you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And you said that, particularly interesting, you said that you hadn't written something like a play before, and that's opened avenues for you in terms of different forms of writing that you might want to kind of experiment with. And that this has given you the confidence to have a go at different things, you think?
Yeah.
So was it mostly sort of stories that you'd written before, Rhiana?
Yeah, I try and write scripts sometimes, but I usually give up after a few pages. I mean, I've tried writing like TV script style things, but also it works differently when it's sort of a play and you can't cut between things and cut stuff out. It's all got to work together. So yeah, I'd never really, and I wrote stories and stuff as well, but I'd never really tried writing, probably writing a play. So that was
great. Thank you. Thanks ever so much. Thank you, Sean and Rhiana. So last but not least, Lauren. Hello, Lauren. Your play Home from War, can you just tell us a little bit about the play and yeah, what inspired you to write it?
I originally had the idea when I was watching the film Saving Private Ryan with my family, and it made me think of how difficult it must be for soldiers to return home after what they've experienced, which is ultimately and hopefully a once in a lifetime experience, and it's nothing they want to relive or rethink, and how difficult it must be for them, but also the people around them once they return. And that's where I got the idea to focus on the initial reaction between a man and his wife when he returns home, and how he realizes how much normality he misses and the life he misses compared to the one he chose with the war.
Great, thank you. There's it's a really yeah, it's a really powerful, powerful play, and I think the thing that most struck me about it is there's a lot in it that's not said. You really play with the kind of space between the characters in terms of what isn't being said most of the time. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experience was working with professional actors and director, how you found it?
Yeah, I was quite nervous going into it, but I really enjoyed the experience. You know, you were all really kind and I felt really included in the process. And what I most enjoyed was seeing how you all communicated with each other through the process and how I felt included in that communication between everyone. And it was a really nice environment to be in.
That's good. It's really interesting because this is all new for us as well, isn't it, Sean? I mean, like this whole kind of doing any of this kind of work on Zoom when normally we'd be in a room together is, yeah, it's interesting, but it's good that it sort of feels to be working. What was the thing that you most enjoyed about it?
I think overall I enjoyed like the journey of the process. So, you know, starting with like the first few bullet points I had for a script and then moving it into like a draft and then writing the final draft and then, you know, having the recording process, which was probably the most enjoyable part of it because I saw it finally all coming together. And it was just a really enjoyable process overall.
And was there anything about the recording that surprised you, or the actors? Did it sound how you expected, or?
I think, you know, what I liked about it was that there were loads of different interpretations of different lines. Like we had multiple recordings with some were calmer than others and some had more emotion and anger through the words. And, you know, overall it sounded, you know, how exactly I envisioned it, but it was nice seeing different interpretations of different lines and how they interpreted the characters.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Whenever you pick up a play or work on scripts, that you suddenly realize there are like 20 different options for every line, really, and they all take you down a different path. So no, it's good. I think that's the kind of mark of a good script, really, I would say. Has the project inspired you to write more? And what kind of things do you think you'd like to write in the future?
It's definitely inspired me to write more, but, you know, it's also broadened my horizons of what I can write and having the confidence in my writing to write different stuff. You know, I don't really write character-driven things, and I felt like this play was the first time I've, you know, stepped into something more emotional, and obviously I've never experienced what the characters have experienced, so it was interesting for me to do that, and I definitely like to write in a style similar to that in the future. Brilliant.
Right, well, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I've found the whole of this experience, I've found it surprising, moving, but really mostly inspiring. And I mean, I'm someone, I've never written anything, so I've kind of blagged my way getting through theatre without ever having to write a thing, and because it's something I find incredibly difficult to do. I love plays, and I really love writers, and I love scripts, and I am just so excited about the plays that you put forward. So I just really, really want to say thank you ever so much. And I don't know if you want to say anything, Sean, as well.
Ia, jyst i ategu be mae Lee newydd dweud, jyst diolch yn fawr iawn am gael yr dewrder i wneud o yn y lle cyntaf, fel oedd Lee'n dweud. Dwi wedi potio yn ysgrifennu yn y gorffennol, ond fel arfer dwi fel Lee, rhywun sydd yn chwarae efo'r clai, ddech chi wedi paratoi yn barod ydw i. So mae'n cymryd dewrder i roi eich geiriau chi o flaen pobl yn y lle cyntaf. Felly, llongyfarchiadau mawr yn yna, da iawn chi.
Thank you. Were you telling them to carry on, keep writing?
I should have said that, but I just
I thought that's what you said.
It takes a lot of courage to hand over your work in the first place. Yeah. So, yeah, fantastic. Well done, everyone.
thank you so much, and take care and keep in touch. And yes, hopefully we'll meet you all again sometime in the future or sooner. All right, take care.